All right, so let's go ahead and let's get the gameplay going here. Okay, so what we're going to do here, let's go back to our storyboard. All right, we're going to add a new button out here. All right, so let's go ahead and look for a button. There it is. Okay, we're going to take this button. We want to drag the button so it's inside the view. Don't put it outside in space. We're going to use this game view, so it needs to be inside here. All right, we're going to set the image of that to the ship. Again, we got to resize that one, so we'll just go 50 by 50 off the screen a little bit. So let's just go 100 by 100 to find it. There she is. Perfect. All right, so let's get that spaceship right. So remember, it has to be inside this white box here. Okay, so make sure it is there. And then we've got it inside, ready to go. All right, so let's hook this thing up to an outlet and an action. So let's go here and we'll just call it space button. And then we need to make an action for it because it's gonna be kind of how we control the game. So we'll move it down here, change this to action, and we'll go ship button pressed. Okay, so that's good there. All right, so now we're gonna go full screen. We're gonna go inside here. Okay, start our code, and now we're gonna create a variable called clicks. That's going to keep track of how many times we click on the spaceship. So basically, we're going to click there, and the whole point of this game is to see how many times you can click on the spaceship in a certain amount of time. So when the game loads up, it's going to be at 0, and then every time we click it, we're going to register that to keep track of the person's score. So since we want to do that, every time we press the ship button is when we want to increment or increase the clicks. So we're going to go clicks plus equal 1. So every time we press that button, this clicks is going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So then, so the user can see it, is we're going to put that into the clicks label we created. So we're going to go click label.text. All right, we'll use some string interpolation for this here. All right. So what we're saying here is every time the user presses the ship button, it's going to add 1 to the count, and that's going to show up in the click label. Okay, so that's kind of the whole point how this game works here. So let's test that out to see if that works for us. All right. All right, so press the button. There it is. So when I start clicking, you can see so as I'm pressing the button here, my clicks are going up. So pretty easy game, and there is no time limit. I can just click as much as I want. I'm the best ever. Look at all the scores going up. So what we're going to do next is code it so that the ship, every time I click on the ship, it's going to move to a random spot within the game view. All right, so that's going to add a little added, degree of difficulty, I guess, to it there. But we're going to make it work so it's going to stay within the game view. All right, but it's going to move to a random position each time I click. Okay, so let's get to work on that. Let's come back into our code. Okay, so we're going to be doing all this within our shipped button pressed action, our function. All right, so basically we have to set the boundaries of the game. All right, and also make sure that it randomly moves on each click. So the first thing we're going to do is create a constant called ship width, where we're going to get the width of it so the code knows. So we're going to go ship button. Oh, I called it space button. That's one, yeah, space button. Okay, so space button, okay, dot frame, dot width, all right, is going to go ahead and that will grab the, the width of that for us, and then we're going to do the same thing for the height. So we're going to go let's ship height. That's going to be space button dot frame dot height. Okay, so right there, right away, the code, when we press the button, it's going to figure out the size of the ship, and then we're going to figure out how big the view is width and height wise. So we're going to go let view width is equal to space button dot super view. We're going to unwrap that dot bounds dot width. Okay, so again, we're figuring out the width of the view in relation to the button. We're going to go let view height is space button dot super view dot bounds dot height. Okay, so just take your time putting that code in. Double check it again that it's exactly as you see in the screencast here. All right, so now we're going to get the X and Y position of the button. Okay, so we're going to figure out where that is in relation to the game view. So we're going to go let X width. Okay, that's going to be equal to view width, again, which we just made right here. We're going to subtract the ship width. Okay, so that's basically going to give me the coordinate, the X coordinate of where that the ship is, XY. Okay, and then we're going to do let Y height. Give that extra, there we go. All right, that's going to be view height minus ship height. All right, so yeah, a lot of code going here, but again, we're figuring out the dimensions, all right, where the ship is in relation to the boundaries. Okay, now we're going to make, every time we're going to set the random position. So every time we click it, it's going to move to a random X and Y coordinates. We're going to create a variable or a constant called let X offset. And that's going to be a CG float. All right, so we're going to use a thing called arc4random. So this is a random number generator in Swift. All right, we're going to use it right now for the first time. Underscore uniform. Okay, so basically then what we're going to say is we're going to take a random integer, UI int 32. All right, so a random 32 number. And then from there, okay, so we're going to put our X width. Let me just type this in and then I'll explain what's going on here. Okay, so what we did, so X offset is going to be a random number that's generated by arc4random uniform. So it's going to take the X width, okay, which is right here. It's going to plug the number in here and it's just going to generate a random number every time for that. Okay. Do I have one too many? What's going on? Oh, let's see. I got to capitalize that W here. That should get rid of the error. Okay, so now we're going to do pretty much the same thing for the Y offset. All right, so it's going to be CG float. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. I'm going to go ahead and paste that down here. And I'm just going to change this. It can't be X width though. We got to change this to Y height. Okay, so now our random numbers are created. Right, so we've got a random position every time we click the button. So that basically we've gone through is we figured out the size of the ship, size of the view. Okay, and then we figured out the width of that, both width and height. Plug it into our random number generator. Okay, and then we're getting this random number every single time. Last thing we need to do is now we got to make the button move off of that. So we're going to go space button dot center dot x. Okay, so we're going to take the space button. We're going to get the center position and then get the x coordinate. All right, and that's going to be equal to the x offset plus ship height divided by 2. So that's going to keep it on the screen, keep it within our view, and it's going to use the random number we generated here. Okay, so that's going to work here. Let's do the same thing for the space button dot center dot y. So again, we're going to get the random y position, y offset, right, plus ship height divided by 2. Okay, so now, okay, it's going to be a random x and y position every time we push here. Now let's see what happens. All right, so let's run this here. Let's see if we have a random spaceship moving around outer space here. All right, so I press play, game starts. And as I click, you can see it's moving to a random position each time, staying within the game view. You can see it's not going outside this white box here. So I've got a basic game set up here. All right, so still, it's not too difficult. There's no timer. Okay, so I can play as long as I want here. All right, and really see if I can get that high score to be here. But as you notice, every time I click, it's registering down here. It's moving to a random position, and we've got a basic game in play. So after this, you guys are going to work through a couple problems on your own. So you're going to see if you can add a timer to the game. So that way, you just got 30 seconds or whatever you want to put on. There's your timer to get as many clicks as possible. All right, so that'll be the next set of challenge. There'll be some information on the class page. Nice job though, working through our screencast on Space Adventure. All right, and you guys have got your first game in play here. All right, so we'll talk in class here about the next stuff, but good job, and that is it for now.